Alright, peace, beautiful souls, and welcome to another video brought to you by Celestial Alignments. My name is Saleh and I am your host on this channel. And today we are going to be discussing a subject that is definitely of importance. We're going to be talking about overthinking, and essentially how to divert yourself from overthinking, you know what I'm saying? Because typically when we find ourselves overthinking, it's usually negative and it's a continuous spiral downwards, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to overthinking, it's a value to understand that overthinking primarily comes from our neocortex. And okay, so when it comes to brainwaves, you know what I'm saying, we have four, and we are able to, in a sense, consciously operate in three of them. We can really operate in all four of them, but the last one we typically tap into when we are sleeping, you know what I'm saying? But theta, alpha, and beta, and then there's gamma, which is the one that we tap into when we're asleep. The three, theta, alpha, and beta, these are brainwaves that essentially we fluctuate from as we are going throughout our day. Now typically though, the default brainwave that most people walk around tuned into is beta. Now beta is the brainwave that deals with, it's a very habitual subconscious type of vibe. It's kind of like you just going through your day, doing what you did yesterday, doing what you did before that. You're not really putting too much thought into the things you're doing. You're kind of going through the motions. If you cook, you have you're like a woman who has like a whole like home routine, let's say, whatever, you do that. If you're a guy, a man, whatever, you do that, that routine. But it's like outside of that pattern routine, there's really no thought that goes into it. That's like beta. It's kind of a default setting of kind of almost being like the Walking Dead to an extent, you know what I'm saying? Then there is the alpha brainwave. Now the alpha brainwave is where like overthinking kind of comes into play, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to alpha, it's a value and importance to understand that the alpha brainwave, what it does is it's that space where we are trying to problem solve, you know what I'm saying? It's when you kind of, let's say you're going through your day to day and then you realize something you don't like, you recognize you're overweight, you recognize you're broke, whatever it may be, you know what I'm saying? And you're like, holy crap, I need to do something about this. And then you start thinking, you start trying to solve the problem. And this is, the alpha brainwave, the alpha frequency, and this is kind of like the monkey running around. It's not really organized, it's kind of chaotic, you know what I'm saying? This is where overanalyzation and overthinking comes into play. It's when you're in that space of, there's these problems I need to solve. Overanalyzing, and trying to, like, putting your neocortex on overdrive, we will say, you know what I'm saying? And thus getting headaches and all of this other nonsense that is avoidable. Now, I want to take a couple steps back, and I hope that I have addressed the source of overthinking, right? The source of overthinking does stem from that alpha brainwave energy, and it does have to deal a lot with us analyzing a circumstance in a situation. That's saying the devil's in the details is very deep, you know what I'm saying? So when circumstances and situations are happening, we typically are inclined towards trying to solve and revolve those situations ourselves, but that's not completely the right way to do it. To an extent it can be, but when you really feel like your back is against the wall and you're scared and you really don't know what to do and you're overthinking and overanalyzing, then that's negative, and we'll talk about what the alternative should be, you know what I'm saying? Before I move forward to talking about the difference between thoughts and thinking, now that I've kind of discussed the source of where overthinking comes from, our tendency to overanalyze situations and our desire to want to solve problems. Now, the desire to want to solve problems, you feel me, is a very essential aspect, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying It's a very essential aspect. But I'll get deeper into why I kind of speak on why we should. Okay, let me put it like this. Above alpha, the brainwave where you're like trying to solve problems, it's theta. Now, the theta brainwave, this is the brainwave you tap into when you're listening to, let's say, meditative music, like that. Or when you're tapped into the breath, right? Or when you're, it's like, when you're intaking certain psychoactive drugs, right? Like THC, CBD, whatever, you know what I'm saying? That also can help slow your brainwave, slow your heart rate, and thus slow your brainwave, you know what I'm saying? And then theta is like the monkey slowing down and realizing like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I can't solve the problem if I'm a part of the problem, you know what I'm saying? And that's like, and now the monkey is like sitting in stillness. Alright, so theta is that calm vibe that you get when you're in meditation. There's different modes of meditations, like you meditate for certain reasons, you know what I'm saying? Ideally though, in the pursuit of still in the mind, you would want to meditate to get familiar with stillness, you feel what I'm saying, to quiet your mind. But anyways, back to the monkey analogy. Theta is like the monkey sitting down and chilling the fuck out, you know what I'm saying? So theta is, the difference between theta and alpha is survival mode. This is us worried about surviving, right? How am I going to survive? How am I going to pay the bills for next week, next month, or whatever? But then theta is all about creativity, Rather than trying to survive in a world that's not even your own, theta is about creating your world, you know what I'm saying? Creating your world and being like the CEO of that world, being the lowercase god of that world, whatever you want to say, you know what I'm saying? Okay, now let's discuss the difference between thinking and thoughts. When it comes to thoughts are ever flowing. It's like a stream, you know what I'm saying? Like thoughts, think of like a river, or a stream of water, whatever. The thoughts are always going to be flowing because there is a infinite flow of consciousness. And the way that I kind of like to explain this is like rainbows, you know what I'm saying? And how the 7 colors of the rainbow derives from the white light. The white light, hits like a prism, whether that's like the atmosphere and like the water, or like a literal prism, you know what I'm saying? The white light hits the prism and it breaks into 7 distinct different colors. Consciousness comes from one infinite source, one infinite source. I was trying to look for other words that are not even coming to me, so I'm gonna let them be. And so these thoughts, this consciousness is then filtered into 7 distinct frequencies, which manifest in our realities through 7 different colors, 7 different musical tones, 7 archangels, 7 dwarfs, 7 planets. There are 10 planets, sure, but in occultism, in the deeper awareness and understanding of astrology, we know that this Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus are just higher octaves. Neptune, a higher octave of Venus. Uranus, a higher octave of Mercury, and it's also connected to the Sun. Pluto, a higher octave of the Moon, and it's also connected to Mars. But that's another story for another time, though. So 7 colors, you know what I'm saying? And so the consciousness just flows, and then it is filtered into 7 distinct energies. And now that in of itself can get really deep. But then we are like connected to that filtration system, you can say. Like the first filtration system that consciousness goes through would be like the higher spiritual realm. I shouldn't say the celestial realm, because that's where consciousness comes from. The higher spiritual realm, so it gets filtered to angelic energies, and then it gets filtered until it gets to us, and then we also filter it, you know what I'm saying? We filter it into this world. It's like angels take consciousness at its rawest energy and they filter it into God's creation, and then the things in God's creation also filter it. You can also kind of think about it like how the sun's energy is absorbed by the planets, by the life forms, whether that's the birds, people, plants, whatever, and how it's absorbed and then transformed into something different, something else, right? They take that white light from the sun and then they use it to their own advantage. That's kind of what we are doing. And so thoughts is consciousness. Thoughts are going to come, and they're going to come in their 7 distinct expressions. What happens is we filter those thoughts according to our own biases and our own energies, and that's where thinking comes into place. There is constructive thinking, and I might as well say there is destructive thinking, you know, although it's really called spontaneous thinking, random thinking, right? And I'll talk about the random thinking. Random thinking is inspired by the 5 senses. This is thought that is inspired by the things that go on around you. You see a billboard, boom, you're thinking of McDonald's. You want to go get a burger. You're watching a commercial, right? You hear music, and then that music puts you in this vibe, in this mood, like of lust or rage or whatever. Because most music nowadays is trash, right? You eat. Like, yeah, it goes as deep into eating. You eat a burger, right? Or you eat some food, and then you fail to program, right? You're not constructively thinking, so you fail to program the food, and now the consciousness and the energy of that food is being transformed from chemicals to thought. Because the body has this ability to take chemical energy and transform it into electricity, and the electricity is we'll say primal expression of thought. No, not primal, because that means old. Basic. It's the basic expression of thought, you know, electricity. Basic expression of thought. I feel like that's blasphemy saying that, because thoughts aren't really physical things, you know. I kind of got that from watching some scientists, so it's funked out of me to say that. Thoughts are... Your thoughts are streamed by your mind to your brain. You know what I'm saying? You have a mind, then you have a brain. Your brain is a part of your hardware, but your mind is part of your software, which is your soul and all that good stuff. But yeah, so thoughts just flow. Thinking is when you get involved with the thought and you start thinking about it, you start adding negative weight. Like when you think, you're literally adding weight. You know what I'm saying? You could have light thoughts or heavy thoughts. But even that's deep, you know what I'm saying? You can have light thoughts or heavy thoughts. The heavy thoughts will drag your soul down into the lower astral planes, also known as hell. You feel what I'm saying? Because it's all about the mind. And both are states of consciousness, states of mind. Hell is a state of mind, etc. You know what I'm saying? You can be the richest man on the planet and you could still be in hell. You know what I'm saying? You could be the poorest man on the planet and you could still be in heaven. You know what I'm saying? So it's time we get our fingers wrapped around that. You know what I'm saying? Anyways. As I was saying, what was I saying? That's destructive thinking. Anytime you're thinking spontaneously and randomly, and you're allowing things around you to dictate your thoughts. Now, constructive thinking is the continual effort of directing your thoughts towards a specific direction. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to constructive thinking, it's of value and of importance to understand that you have to have goals. You have to have like standards. You have to have, as I like to call them, divine responsibilities. You know what I'm saying? Things that, like once you awaken to your purpose, and like your mission on Earth, you realize you have certain responsibilities you have to take care of. You know what I'm saying? And those, those divine responsibilities, etc. Once you're aware of that purpose, once you have, in a sense, activated your solar plexus or your sun, because your sun and your sun sign and the house that your sun is, this is all the knowledge and the aspects that are being made to your sun, of course, also. Oh my God, and the houses that your sun rules. These are all things that are going to help you gain an awareness of like your focus, your purpose, your reason for existing. You know what I'm saying? Like what you are here to source. You feel what I'm saying? Like what source is going to bring through you type energy. Thoughts are ever flowing. Overthinking, you kind of have control over, or just thinking in general, you have control over. You can think constructively or think destructively. You can even slow down your thinking. Like you can just observe the thoughts as they flow and not engage with them. You could do that too, you know what I'm saying? So you kind of have more control over thinking than thoughts, but thoughts are ever flowing. Alright, we talked about brain waves. We talked about the source of overthinking. We talked about thoughts versus thinking. So, okay, yeah. Now, next, I want to talk about Mercury and Jupiter. But I'll keep it in very practical terms for those of you who don't really speak the language of astrology like that, you know what I'm saying? So, when it comes to Mercury governs reasoning, logic, thoughts, our ability to think, our ability to just rationalize, our ability to calculate distance in space, to an extent our awareness of time, the measurement of time, the measurement of size, so it's just our ability to perceive into the world, solve problems. It rules over perceptions and it rules over thoughts and thinking, specifically thinking, you know what I'm saying? Like thoughts and thinking are different, but they're interchangeable. Like they're in society are interchangeable. You say things like I'm in deep thought, which is really I'm thinking, overthinking, But anyways, as I was saying previously, that's what Mercury is. It's our analytical, overthinking mind. It's our. Without Mercury, there's no overthinking. You need Mercury to overthink things. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what Mercury is. Your neocortex, your brain, your nervous system, that's all ruled by Mercury. Communication is ruled by Mercury. The verbal expression of thoughts, ideas, Mercury, all of that good stuff. Written word, Mercury, you know what I'm saying? And then Jupiter is more, alright, so Mercury rules the sign that rules the lower mind, Gemini. Mercury is Gemini, which rules the lower mind. That doesn't mean a bad thing, it just means that Gemini more so is inclined toward studying and exploring the things of this world, whereas Jupiter rules the sign of the higher mind, Sagittarius, which is inclined towards studying and learning things of like the world beyond this one, like the spiritual world, the heavens, etc. You know what I'm saying? And so, in overthinking, it's important to understand this: the lower mind and the higher mind. The difference between Jupiter and Mercury. Mercury is us trying to think our way out of a problem. You know what I'm saying? Trying to solve a problem through our minds and through our thoughts, right? But then Jupiter is more faith, hope, optimism, and awareness of a greater power, a greater source that has the ability to resolve all issues and all problems. You know what I'm saying? So these are archetypes. The planets are archetypes that just express through different things. I went into that because I wanted to explain how earlier I was explaining how Mercury rules thinking, logic, period. So it rules schools, it rules all those things. Jupiter rules all religions, so anything that's religious, anything that deals with faith, that deals with prayer, that deals with tapping into a higher power, tapping into that aspect of you that, your higher self. Like, yo, Jupiter is deep, you know what I'm saying? And tapping into Jupiter is tapping into that energy that governs all religions, you know what I'm saying? To truly be religious is to be Jupiterian, and to be Jupiterian is to be aware of the significance of all the different religions, right? But anyways, in those spaces of fear, of overthinking and overanalyzing, you need to learn to develop faith and hope and an ability to give your worries and give your fears to a higher power. The best way to develop Jupiterian energy is through Sagittarius and Pisces. Sagittarius is the increasing of knowledge and wisdom, is what I'm saying. The increasing of comprehension. Astrology. Sagittarius rules comprehension. And it's all about seeing things as they are, you know, comprehending things. You know what I'm saying? And then Pisces is all about like selflessness. It's all about giving yourself to the greater good, to the collective consciousness. It's about putting the needs of the many before the needs of your own, of yourself. That's that Pisces energy. That if you want to get that Jupiter energy, you also have to cultivate. So you have to learn to be more inclined and anchor into that agape, like universal love. Learning how to love things without not being a hater, right? Don't be a hater. That's like the most simplest way to put it. But of course, it's deeper than that, right? It's way deeper than that. It's just awakening to the realization that you are connected to everything. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's a water sign. It's immutable water. Water accumulates. And Pisces is water. Cancer is fog, because Cancer is cardinal water, which is gaseous water. And then Scorpio is crystallized water, whether that's water that has been crystallized through pressure or crystallized through temperature. Anyways, yeah, it's important to be aware and realize the connectivity of all things, you feel what I'm saying? And that's through the Pisces energy. And then Jupiter is and then Sagittarius is all about that awareness of life and having higher knowledge and higher wisdom. Sagittarius does rule different religions. It rules especially Eastern religions more than Western religions, you know what I'm saying? So it's important to tap into that energy as well, you know what I'm saying? And learning to become more Jupiterian yourself, learning to be more charitable, learning to be more giving, more loving, you know what I'm saying? And that's just me taking it on the deeper end of things. But really, mentally, mentally, the way that you do it, anytime you find yourself overthinking and overanalyzing, try to put yourself in a space where you are faithful and optimistic that a higher power will help you solve this problem. You can even use your knowledge, which is Jupiter, of course. Yeah, you can also use the knowledge that you have, you know, in this case, in this situation, the philosophies that you have, the awareness that all things happen for a reason. This too shall pass. All things, like the law of rhythm, you know, like, and these are things that are gonna help you slow down that overthinking in your mind. So just in chemistry, certain elements, right, combine to create either constructive compounds, so positive compounds, or destructive explosive compounds. Mentally, certain thought forces come together to create constructive compounds, and others come together to create destructive compounds. Mercury and Jupiter come together to kind of somewhat neutralize each other. I'll say that. It's like Yeah, neutralize. Should I say neutralize or? Yeah, neutralize each other, because you know the thing about Mercury is, or the mind is, the mind is neutral. You know, the mind is not really negative or positive, but the mind will become negative according to what it is around and what it's associated with. Same with Mercury. Mercury will be feminine or masculine, negative or positive, evil or good, whatever, according to the aspects that are made to it, according to, in a sense, the other planets it's in bed with. You know what I'm saying? So if Mercury is associated with Saturn, it's going to be negative, right? And the thing about negative thinking is that Saturn deals with that. Saturn is the planet of restriction. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. That expansiveness of like, I can breathe again type deal. You know what I'm saying? Now, Mercury is like, yeah, you know, it's neutral. Jupiter expands. Jupiter frees. Jupiter rules horses. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. You know, Sagittarius wants to be free. So, anyways, that's Jupiter. But then, you know, Saturn is like Capricorn and Aquarius, and let's not even get into that. Capricorn is more like restrictions. It deals with like your responsibilities, illnesses that you may have, certain things you may not have access to, things like poverty. You know, I already said illness, but illness. You know, so being restricted that way, and so Saturn, it manifests in ways that are negative. You know what I'm saying? That become negative. So when Mercury is associated with Saturn, Mercury becomes negative. So yeah, learn to associate your mind with more positive things, you know what I'm saying? Rather than negative things also. And also, I'm sorry guys, my camera is about to die, so I gotta cut this short. You know what I'm saying? But I've given more than enough information for you to take off with this and do your own research. Anyways, you guys can always tap in and ask about my services and how I can help. You know, I've been helping people for years now, and just tap in and I'll tell you about how I can help you. Peace.